Hi and welcome to the video. I'm going to give some tips and just a little demonstration on how to troubleshoot some RC components. The reason for making the video was hopefully to save you some time. My son had his radio controlled Jeep and we had no drive and no steering, and everything appeared to be not working. So by process of elimination we were trying to narrow down which components had failed and whether it was more than one, what the issues were. So I thought I would just give a quick guide as to what steps we took. So components we've got here, one speed controller from DumboRC. This was a replacement for the original one. It's a multi-channel device, and the main reason for the switch was being able to turn on and off LED lights from the car. So we have this LED function on one of the extra channels. We have the DumboRC receiver, a servo here just for testing, a motor again for testing purposes, and a battery to connect up, and always find one of these kind of handy, just a spare connector. So let's get started. The other thing that we'll need, which is a pretty essential tool I found, is a multimeter, just so you can really see actually what's happening, what voltages and outputs you're getting from the different components. First test was just to bypass everything and connect up battery directly to the motor. So I've used a spare connector. I'm just going to stick these cables in here directly, and there you go. As we can see in here, motor's working fine. So we know the drive from the motor was good. So that just eliminates one possibility. I'll unplug that. Next thing to check was the receiver itself. A couple of points to note on the receiver itself. Here we've got, well, you've got 3 pins, and those need to be connected in the right order. So on this little sticker here, it's not immediately obvious, but you have a minus, a plus, and then the last pin is signal. So here that would be your negative pins, positive, and then the signal pins that the servos use. So one thing that I didn't realize immediately was all of these pins are connected, and all of these pins are connected, and then the signal ones operate independently. So as long as you've got one power source coming into one of these channels, then power will come through all of the other pins on here. That we can demonstrate very easily by using a multimeter. So with the multimeter ready, we can set this onto continuity test mode. So that just checks for continuity between pins. So you'll get a beep if there's no breaks in a circuit. So if we show you here, there we go, we can see all of these are in fact connected, and then the same with the middle row. So as long as you've got power going to one of these channels, the others will work. But the signal pins, that was me just touching them, signal pins are not linked. Next test we did was plugging the battery directly in. A good sign, so we have a light. If we turn this around, we should be getting around 6 volts through the pins on the receiver. So we can just check now, are we getting the voltages that we should through all these other pins? Okay, it's looking good. That's from the battery directly, so we've got the right voltage coming through, 7.2. Great. So we know all of this is working well. Next thing to test is the pairing between the controller and the receiver. We have in here the DumboRC transmitter and the receiver pair now. What I'm going to try and do, I could do with some extra hands, is show you on the multimeter. So for channel 2 here, if we connect a negative pin to the signal pin, we have got 0.28 volts. Great. So now what we should see is if we can move the throttle, we can see the signal pin voltage changes, which is great. So that means that we have connection between our transmitter and receiver. That's working. We can see the voltage change on the multimeter, so we know that our receiver is working, sending a signal out, which will be picked up by the servo, and we know the pairing is good. So that really does help us narrow down quite a lot of things, knowing that that is working and working properly. As it turns out, on the car we actually had a faulty steering servo and a faulty speed controller, but we could narrow that down because we were pretty confident we were getting the right output and the right results from the receiver. The next thing we can test is the servo. We can just directly plug into the receiver, bypassing everything else. So what we'll do is plug in this servo here. Make sure to get these the right way round. So the color code is brown, red, orange on this style. Some of them are black, red and white. The orange or the white is always on the signal cable. The brown, black is the negative rail. So if we plug in our battery, then we should be able to control our servo. So that just confirms what we tested earlier with the multimeter, and we know the connection is good and working. Now we know that our servo is working, connected up directly. Last step was to connect up the speed controller. What we'll do, take this DumboRC unit here, which is a good replacement for the standard unit, very well priced and good set of features with the extra channel. So we'll pop in here, power, motor gets plugged into M1. I'm just using this little motor as a test. Then we have channel 2, which will connect for the drive. Make sure to get the way round. So as you can see on this one, we have no green light on our receiver. So we'd narrowed down our problem to the speed controller, so it's not actually supplying power enough to turn this on. So if we test on our multimeter, the voltage coming through, 1.37. So we know that there's a problem now with our speed controller. It's not supplying enough voltage to turn on the receiver. I do actually have a spare one. We'll swap this one out quickly. Just connect up M1 to the motor. Here, buzzer. The buzzer you can connect up to indicate whether the voltage is getting low, so you know when the battery's running out. Connect up the power. Then we will pop channel 2, making sure to get this in the right way round, into our receiver. Good sign, we have power, so now it's good, we can see our servo's working for steering. Let's bring in our motor just to test, and we should see excellent. So we have drive as well. Last thing to show was just the LED component on this speed controller, which was the reason we upgraded to it in the first place. I'm just going to connect this up to channel 4 on our receiver, which corresponds to a switch on the transmitter. Then with using our multimeter, we should be able to see what voltage is coming through the LED socket. Great. So at the moment we have just under 6 volts. Then that switch is off, no voltage. Back up to 6 volts. So you can see we can control the LED lights on and off from our receiver, transmitter. That was pretty much it. Hopefully that's helpful. If you're interested in any of the components, I've put some links in the description below. Multimeter, extremely handy if you need to test any of these things, so highly recommend getting one of those. The DumboRC components we found to be very good. One thing I think that did cause us issues, which I would just caution you on, is making sure that you get these cables in the right way round. I think we blew the speed controller by connecting it the wrong way round. I hope you found that useful. With these few components we can have a pretty good troubleshooting test as to what's going on within your radio controlled car. Feel free to ask any questions if you like. I'm by no means an expert, but will certainly try to help you out where I can. Thanks for watching.